Word on the street. FisMaz show. What's the word on the street? Like, who got the beats that be killing the game? Who's up on the scale? Who playing who? What's the score on the sheet? Fiso the Prince got him taking the seat. Got the legends giving us the 411. FisMaz from the 031. No hating sports and entertainment when we got it all and we the only ones. And after all that action, never have a dripping hot passion. Drippy on some rich municipal stylish and soak up with passion. If it's giving us less, then we never settle. Make sure you pull up and bring all your medals. Sit back and relax, let's go. It's FisMaz bringing you the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show. It's the FisMaz show.
Yo, what up, what up, what up? This is the one, the only DJ Nays. Hope you're keeping up and keeping it well, man. You are currently locked into the one, the only Forex father, or as you know it, the FisMaz show. You know, shout out to my man Fiso doing big things right now. Forex father, take it home.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. The FisMaz show is back, season 3. We're starting in style. Oh, man, I've missed all of you, and I'm really looking forward to getting things started. And, of course, we know everything's been happening in the world of cricket, so I thought let's start right there. There's a plenty of celebration, of course. South Africa coming back in style in New Zealand. So I thought, let me go tap into a bra of mine, a man who knows a thing or two about the game, who knows a thing or two about the highest level, coaching and playing. His name is Ashwell Prince. Ashwell, how are you, brother?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. And yeah, it's an honor to be on the Fiso Mazibuko show.
No, it's about time. It's about time. I've been wanting you here, but it hasn't quite happened. But yeah, I really appreciate your time. And of course, I know you're a happy man because Liverpool won the Carabao Cup. Yeah, if you don't know, Ashwell Prince is a massive football fan. He's all right at playing himself. So, I don't know.
Yeah, look, it's great news. Liverpool's in good form at the moment, been for the last few years. Obviously, I still get, while I was with Bangladesh, Russell Domingo, obviously being the head coach of Bangladesh, he's a big Man United supporter. So you can just imagine him saying, Ash, with Klopp there and kind of a golden era for you guys, it's such a shame that you're only going to win one title while Klopp is there because City is dominating still. So, yeah, look, City is still the team to beat. But Liverpool is in a good moment at the moment for the last 4 or 5 years since Klopp has taken over. So we're just enjoying the ride. I know you're a big Man United man, and I see there's lots of frustration in your tweets and your posts and things like that. But
hey, times are tough, brother. Times are tough.
We were on that side for a long time. 30 years is a long time.
No, absolutely, man. And I saw a video of you the other day racing against your young man. I'm like, hey, the brass took on wheels, eh?
You see, okay, it's out of shot now, but this tummy is growing, man. So I'm getting a lot of stick from these youngsters here at home, So they've been hassling me for some time. The other day we were walking around here, Rondebosch. They were drawing the lines, because it's all track and field time of the year, athletics time of the year. They're drawing the lines, Rondebosch boys here. So I thought, okay, the lines are drawn. Let me take these boys on because they're taking the old man now. They're saying this old man getting too old there. So I just had to, put the record straight there with the youngsters.
And what I really enjoyed, the caption there. You're like, this youngster's coming with this Baywatch body here.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Now the boys are growing up fast. Obviously, as you saw in the video, the boys are getting big, and yeah, it's lucky to be home and spending some time with them. And just, I think that's probably the most important thing in terms of me leaving my post with Bangladesh. But I'm sure we'll get into these things.
Yeah, no, 100%. We'll definitely get into that. I'm saving that for, I guess, towards the end of the show. What I want to start with is the South Africa tour of New Zealand. Of course, we know what happened with India, unbelievable performance. And then Bangladesh, then New Zealand happens. And I know, I was listening to Wake Up and Smell the Cricket when you were in the show alongside Pommy and Vernon. And he made a fascinating point that I've never really heard anyone speaking about that particular thing, but from a scientific point of view, how South Africa perhaps weren't physically and scientifically ready to play that first test match.
Yeah, Fiso, look, at the end of the day, these are my own experiences being with the national team, flying to the other side of the world, which is Australia, New Zealand. And I think making the point on the Wake Up and Smile, the cricket show on SuperSport, I think people kind of misunderstood. So people perceived it or understood it to be, it's 1 hour, 1 day adjustment for every hour in flight. In fact, it takes 1 day for every hour in time difference. So it's not for the length of the flight, it's for the difference in time. So the time difference between New Zealand and South Africa is 11 hours. I know, because I've just been there and kind of been communicating with my family who was here in South Africa in the different time zones. So it's 11 hours like time difference, right? So if the scientists say, and these are not my theories, you know, this is what you know, we were kind of educated on in our playing days. If the scientists are saying it takes 1 day for every 1 hour of time difference, that means only after 11 days of being in the country will your body clock start to adjust to being in that time zone. So people think, you know, bruh, you're just making excuses now for the players. The boys got a hammering, this, that, and the other. But if you listen to Boucher's interviews, if you listen to Temba's interviews, if you listen to Dean Alger's interviews, they're all saying the same thing, and they couldn't quite put their finger on why the energies were so low, why the intensity wasn't there. And basically, if you look at the performance, South Africa just wasn't at the races. Now, what we need to understand as the public that's kind of supporting the Proteas, and sometimes I think we just want to bash the guys when they don't perform and they lose, is that if you, let's say for instance, South Africa depart, I don't know what time of the day they flew, okay? But let's say for instance, they flew the evening before going to New Zealand. So let's say they leave nighttime, 9 o'clock or something like that, 9 p.m. South African time, right? So your body now is in nighttime South African mode. When you get there after 11 hours, it's supposed to be sort of next morning South African time. South African time, you sort of get there 9, 10 o'clock South African following morning. But when you arrive in New Zealand, it's now nighttime again. You understand what I'm saying? Because they're 11 hours on. So you leave nighttime, you get there. Technically, you're arriving 9 o'clock South African morning time the following day. But when you get there, it's 9, 10 p.m. New Zealand time. So now, everybody else, if you think of the New Zealand team, they're going to sleep because it's 11 o'clock their time at night. So they're going to sleep. The South African players would be wide awake because it's 9 a.m. in the morning in South Africa. So your body is not adjusted to the time zone that you are in. Your body is still saying it's 9 a.m. in the morning, so you're wide awake. So you can imagine the days leading up to the first test match. All the New Zealand players will get their normal hours of sleep, wake up in the morning, be ready for the day. South African players will be there looking at the ceiling all night, can't fall asleep, you know, because it's daytime in South Africa. And by the time you're required to go onto the field and bat and field in a test match, your body is now saying, it's nighttime in South Africa, I must now go to sleep. You understand what I'm saying? And so, you know, yes, we can analyze the performance, and some aspects of the performance wasn't good enough. It's not like you're only wanting to make excuses for the players, but these are not things that we sucking out of our thumb, you know. These things have been explained to us before, scientifically, and when all the interviewers are saying, look, we're off the pace, our intensity wasn't there. Personally, I don't feel the boys were afforded the best preparation before the first test match. From a adjusting to the time zone point of view, and not being afforded a warm-up match before the first test. And then you see the performance in the second test match when they've been there for more than 11, 12 days. They've had one match under their belt. Unfortunately, it happened to be a test match that we lost heavily. When they've been in the country and they've had some practice time, like I say, it just happened to be a test match. Now you see the real South African team's capabilities in the second test. And you think to yourself, well, why wasn't the planning better? Why couldn't we give the guys a better opportunity before the first test? And I understand part of the reasons, these days is that the calendars are kind of congested. There isn't always time. And so the tour had to happen. The 2 test matches had to happen. And so let's play it in this little window. But unfortunately, the window for the players is just not big enough to adjust to the time. And I think I also said on air in the same cricket show there on SuperSport that, the Bangladesh team was also there for 2 test matches, but they were in the country for a total of 35 days to play 10 days of cricket, official test match cricket. But they were there for 35 days. And that was to do the quarantine, to get your body adjusted to the time zone, to play a practice match before, and then play the 2 test matches. And of course, Bangladesh won the first test, got beat in the second test, but I mean, it was an historic win for Bangladesh.
Yeah, and I mean, you make some fascinating points there with regards to obviously all the from a scientific point of view, and that stuff people won't be aware of, and that's why for me it was such an important thing that I wanted to touch on the show, just to get a sense of understanding, because I think we just have an expectation that once you're out of quarantine, you're ready to go, and unfortunately we see with the scheduling. You almost get a sense that if we were to get that amount of time before the match, you almost have a situation where probably straight after the India series, the boys have got to go. And mentally, that's also going to be a challenge on its own, because you're going from bubble to quarantine. And I guess that's the biggest challenge that's been posed now. But we have also seen in the recent past, there has been a moving away, I guess, of going on tour a little bit earlier and trying to, I guess, acclimatize to those conditions. And at times, it leads to those slow starts.
Yeah, look, I think where the time zones are similar, it's easier to do that. So when we go to England, for instance, the time zone is more or less the same. So, 1 hour, 2 hours difference. So you can arrive and your body would be used to the time zone a lot sooner than it would be flying either to Australia, New Zealand, or in fact to the West Indies, which is also 10, 11, 12 hours in the other direction. So tours, but as you say, tours have become, players are not afforded as much time these days in terms of going into a different country and warm-up matches. Warm-up matches have become less and less before test matches or before an ODI series. But I still think you need one, even if it's a 2-day game. It doesn't have to be a 3 or a 4-day game. Even if it's a 2-day game, everybody gets a run out on the field. Bowlers get a run out, batters get a run out. If you don't get a score in a warm-up game, it's unlucky. But at least you get to the crease, and maybe if you don't score in a warm-up game, maybe you're saving it for the test match for the real deal. But at least you get an outing. You should get that. But I think credit has to go to the guys for the way they bounced back and how they played in the second test. And that was an unbelievable performance. And a lot of credit to the young guys, new guys on the block. Verreynne and Sarel obviously making big hundreds, and then KG leading from the front. I think this guy youngster has also been outstanding, Marco Jansen, and a lot of credit to Robbie Peterson down at the Warriors for the way he's managed this guy's career and how he's come on since he's joined Robbie. So I think the future of the Proteas team is bright. I think it's bright.
And I mean you look at all that exciting, energy that's coming out the team now. All of a sudden, there was a lot of focus, obviously, on perhaps batters not putting up the runs that they needed to. and the load falling on bowlers a lot. And it was nice to see Asaro Ervia. You know, I know him personally. I played with him at university level, and you know, it's nice to see guys who have had to do it the hard way getting their opportunity finally. It's always a difficult one, isn't it, with when it comes to getting that opportunity to play for South Africa, because sometimes it's just you need to play in the right era at the right time, right coach, those sort of things. And when they do finally fall in line, I mean, you look at Kyle Verreynne, you probably think if de Kock doesn't retire, you know, does he play in the next 5 years? You know, is there frustration that's built up about getting an opportunity? Quinton retires, I mean, and all of a sudden Kyle's in. You know, some people start having question marks early days. But I mean, I've seen him at 4-day cricket and I've watched him over the past few years. You've worked with him. Those guys that finally get that chance after having waited and worked hard, it's always sweeter when you see them, you know, putting up their hands and getting those rewards.
Absolutely, and I think if we can just touch on Cyril first, you know, I think South African public in general, and maybe not only the South African public, it happens around the world. Everybody is waiting for the next new kid off the block, you know, coming out to the starting blocks, this and the other. And, you know, there's an obvious excitement in at the moment in somebody like Deval Previs, who sort of looks like he could be the next big thing. But you have to have respect for people like Cyril, who's been around the block for a long time, who's not given up on his dream, who's had to deal with disappointment. You know, this is the thing about the beauty about Test match cricket and batting in Test matches is, or not just in Test matches, in any international matches. I mean, you kind of want the guys like Cyril, who has faced adversity in a number of times in his career, batting in the middle, because when that person is faced with difficulty in the middle, kind of has a lot of reference points that he can go to in that moment, you know, where it's been tough in the career before. He's had to find ways before to get himself out of trouble or out of form, back into form, to fight for his career, to fight for his dream to come true. And then you see those kind of characteristics being displayed in a Test match innings at the highest level, you know, and you got to have a lot of respect for something like that. Similarly, you know, somebody like a Peter Malan went through a similar type of journey. He eventually got his chance as well, and maybe he will get another chance in the future, who knows. But it's a similar kind of story of guys who came into first-class cricket, had to spend a lot of time at the semi-pro level. In those days, semi-pro, then became senior provincial. You know, had to spend a lot of time there. Eventually got their chances at franchise level, put the hundreds on the board, and then you know, got their nod and to represent the country. So, and then again, you know, I mentioned Peter Malan. You look at his performances in the recently completed CSA T20. You know, somebody not regarded as a T20 player, but shows what he can do with his experience, adapt to the situation. The experienced players who can adapt to situations, who've seen a lot of difficulty in their life and in their careers, these guys are invaluable to the system, you know, and invaluable to in their teams, because there's a lot to learn from those type of guys. And then obviously you look at you mentioned Kyle, and Kyle getting his opportunity after Quinton retired, and at the end of the day, you know, that's how it's got to be. You want guys to, yes, they're showing the signs that they can possibly and probably play that level, but you want them to keep going and keep waiting for their chance, you know, keep waiting for your chance. And I think now with the Colpack ruling sort of being done away with, I think we will benefit from the fact that your guys quite often, for counties in England, the easiest players to target were those who had a taste of international cricket, definitely probably good enough to play international cricket, but not first 11 players for the Proteas. And I'm thinking here of names like Stiaan van Zyl. I'm thinking of names like Richard Levy and Dane Villas. These guys had a taste of international cricket. They were good cricketers, but they weren't first 11 players for the Proteas. Even what's his name was back now, the fast bowler, Duan Olafir. So it was easy for the counties to target these guys because they got international experience. They probably got that quality, but they're not going to play regularly for the Proteas in those days. And so let's try and target these guys to strengthen our county teams. Now that the counties don't have access to these players, and we have the access, and we will be able to keep these players in our country, I think it's going to help the system a lot to have your Peter Malan, Sarel Erviers, 30-odd-year-olds playing regularly in our domestic cricket and passing over the knowledge and experience to the young players. And if it means that the younger players have to wait a little bit longer for their turn to play for the Proteas, then so be it.
It's truly fascinating. I mean, I go back, and I mean, this is a story I want to share with the listeners and the viewers. And I mean, I go back to, we were 18 or 19 years old. Sarel Ervia we were playing at the University of Natal together, and Sarel was in the Dolphins Academy, and he could not buy a run. And I remember, I mean, he was a guy who was always really hard on himself. I think he still is. And I remember looking at a guy who was incredibly gifted, who had the bravado to be a really good player. And maybe technically he had a few flaws that he was struggling with at academy level and at the senior pro, at the semi-pro level. And I remember him having to move back to Pietermaritzburg and essentially give it a go, but because he was out of the KZN Coastal team, give it a go at the KZN Inland team. A KZN Inland team that had guys like Tabrez Shamsi there, who couldn't get a game at the Dolphins. And I highlight those two specific players because you look at Shamsi now, number one T20 bowler in the world, had to be patient, had to bide his time, had to believe in himself. You look at Sarel Ervia, first test 100 in a second test match. There's a beauty in hardship. While it's not easy and it's not easy to take at the time, it seems to build, I guess, a more robust character and a character who, when you speak of test cricket, the word says itself, test. People who have stood the test of time and I guess the lower levels, they seem to have this desire to fight through anything when they get to that test match level.
You're spot on. You're spot on. When people have had these journeys, and Tabrez Shamsi is a perfect example. I remember him, his name being on the scene when I was still playing years ago. As a young player, was supposed to be at the time, exciting. Whenever a spinner comes onto the scene, it's exciting, And for years, he sort of plied his trade in senior provincial cricket. He hung in there, and eventually got his chance at franchise cricket. And then, he did the business there. And as you say, now he's one of the best bowlers in the world. And similarly with Sarel, these guys hung in, and now gets his chance in test match cricket. And you're not selecting a guy who's going to, you wonder if he can bat and score runs and score 100 in test match cricket. When a guy gets to 28, 29, 30, you kind of, the batter already knows how to score runs. In that instance, it's just whether that batter's still going to get that opportunity. You another example you can look at is a Stephen Cook. He knew how to score runs. He knew how to score runs, scored runs year in, year out for the Lions. We're getting to 29, getting to 30 years old, 31. You wonder, is he going to get his chance? He gets his chance and he scores a couple of test hundreds. That these guys can do it because they know how to bat. A batsman, a batter really only matures in his late 20s. And the A.B. de Villiers type of examples, the Ricky Ponting type of examples, Jacques Callis, who starts playing test match cricket successfully from 20, 21 years old type of thing. Those are rare examples, Sachin Tendulkar, very rare examples. But most 90% of test match batters they only kind of find their feet or understand their own batting later in their 20s, approaching 30. And in fact, you can compare Jacques Kallis's batting record after 30, after turning 30 versus before 30. And the numbers will be, phenomenal how successful he was after his 30s. So, after turning 30. So there's a lot, you get a lot of reward if you can be patient, especially as a batsman. For bowlers it's different because once you get to beyond 30, the body starts getting tougher for the bowlers, especially the fast bowlers. But for batting, I think your best years are 28 and above. So, you have a lot of young batsmen in the country who's tasted international cricket. People like Zubair Hamza, there's one or two others. Maybe they tasted international cricket at white ball cricket and not test cricket. Yanaman Malan, these type of guys who are young, but their best batting is still ahead of them, and they need to be patient, and opportunities will come. Their best batting is ahead of them, late 20s, early 30s into the mid 30s. So I feel positive about the sort of potential that we have in the country. And again, a lot of ability displayed at the CS80-20, for instance. A lot of exciting young players there. Tristan Stubbs comes to mind, as well as one or two others. So there's a lot of good cricketers out there.
Yeah, man. Oh, there was one more point I wanted to touch on, but if we go there, hey, we might be talking till tomorrow. So maybe I'll put that one in reserve and we'll touch on it in the future. But let's move forward. Bangladesh, of course, coming to South Africa, 3 ODIs, 2 test matches, a team you know well. So yeah, for anyone who perhaps hasn't been watching them closely, what can we expect from Bangladesh when they come to South Africa?
They have some very exciting players. Liton Das is, he was man of the series in the recently completed series last week against Afghanistan. It's one ODI series. He scored a test match 100 in New Zealand. I work with this player, and I think, from an ability point of view, technical ability point of view, this is somebody who definitely has the potential to be top 10 in the world in all formats. He's really a class batter. Got a range of attacking strokes, solid technique. The difficulty with these guys is they don't play often enough against the big nations. I don't think they've ever played a test match against Australia, for instance. They played against New Zealand a few times. They, very few test matches against England, South Africa. So they don't play against the big test playing nations enough. I think partly also because, by their own design, because I think they, as a cricket board, their cricket is designed around white ball cricket. So it's also partly by their own design. I think the players deserve to play more test cricket because they have some real good test players there. Then from a bowling point of view, I mean, there are a few other batters as well that were looking pretty good when I was there. You just don't know what Bangladesh. So another point is that you just don't know who's going to get selected. So sometimes it can be it can be very different to what you think. So of course, myself, Russell didn't have too much input in. Well, definitely myself, Russell to an extent did have an input, but I never had any input into who gets selected. So I might like a batsman, but then he's not on the tour. So you don't know who's going to get selected. They got a few good young players there. But then from a bowling point of view, you have to give a lot of credit to these guys. They got some very good young bowlers. Taskin Ahmed has got good pace. Reasonably tall, gets a bit of bounce. Shoriful Islam, one of the guys who won the World Cup with the under-19 team in South Africa in Poch a few years ago. He's a left-arm quick. And then they have obviously the guy that was man of the match in New Zealand at the Mount, Ebadot Hussain. So in terms of the 3 seamers, they got a seam attack to win a test match, which they did in New Zealand at Manganui. And they always have spinners. They got a very good left arm spinner. They got a good off spinner. And they got Shakib, who's an all-rounder. Whether he tours and plays in the test matches, I'm not sure. He's been playing less test matches these days, mostly been playing the white ball cricket. So they've got a bowling attack who can take 20 wickets. And I think where the two tests have been scheduled in Durban and St. George's Park, those two pitches in particular are not as quick as, for instance, the Wanderers or Centurion, not as bouncy. The subcontinent teams generally struggle with the bounce because their pitches don't bounce as much as some of our pitches can do. But where the two tests have been scheduled, I think Bangladesh will have a chance, if they can put a first innings score together. They got good bowling attack. They can bowl a team out as they showed in New Zealand. So, although it's a test series that you expect South Africa to win, I wouldn't underestimate them, especially with South Africa. Rumor has it, that they'll be missing quite a few players going to the IPL. Some senior players will be going to the IPL. Senior bowlers in particular will be going to the IPL. So when you're missing those players, and you're coming up against a decent outfit, you don't want to take anything for granted.
Yeah, and that's a fascinating point because, it is something I wanted to touch on. Were you surprised that potentially, a subcontinent team, those games are scheduled to those particular parts of the country? Because we've seen how Durban has been quite tricky for us when we play against subcontinent teams. And of course, in Gqeberha, same thing, where we see now even in the T20 stuff, it was pitches that rewarded, the spinners as well. So it could pose a challenge. And I'm sure there'll be a sense of frustration from ardent cricket fans that IPL gets in the way again of I guess, what is a test series, regardless of who we're playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think fans will be disappointed if they don't see a full strength South African team out. The technicalities around contract situations and what agreements exist between CSA and the IPL, I'm not aware of what goes on there and who's got first access to the players. I'm not aware of what's going on there. But if it is true that some of the key players are going to be away, one, it's a little bit frustrating not to have the best South African team on the pitch. And then two, yes, I was surprised that the pitches or the grounds that have been chosen are those two grounds, Durban and St. George's, because they will spin as well, and the spin will even help the Bangladeshis even more. Durban of late in recent years have taken quite a bit of spin. St. George's Park have had quite a lot of cricket in recent times, and so the square will be used. I'm sure the test pitch has been sort of kept aside and been left for the test match, but even St. George's in general, it will take some spin, less bounce at St. George's, so it will assist the Bangladeshis. And if I don't know at the moment if crowds are going to be allowed, but if they are, I'm expecting quite a few Bangladeshis to pitch up at Durban, because there's a big Bangladesh community that lives out that way. So, there's not a lot of things in the Proteas' favor as far as the setup of the series is so far. So, but in saying that, we should have the quality to win the series.
Yeah, no doubt. The boys will be backing themselves to get the job done there. And yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how, I guess, both teams do match up, which players put up their hands. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And in closing, I wanna go back to 2008. A certain young man by the name of Ashwell Prince gets 160 odd in Centurion. How well do you remember that innings, and how fond were you of playing against Bangladesh?
Yeah, actually, my record against Bangladesh, I'll tell you a little bit of the history. I made my test debut in 2002 against the mighty Australia. Best, arguably, with West Indies, the two best teams, the West Indies of 60s, 70s, 80s. Probably the two best teams in Test cricket history. I made my Test debut against that Australian team. And I did okay in my first outing, a couple of 40s there against some of the best bowlers in the world. And I thought, I think I can do this match thing, And then, my next series was against Bangladesh, and I scored 0-2. And so, one of the tests was in East London. I think I scored 2 there. We only batted once, and then we played another test in Potchefstroom, and I scored a duck in that one. So I thought, this is my chance to secure my test match career here against Bangladesh. And obviously, as you know, in cricket, you never take anything for granted. I was promptly dropped after that, and I had to wait until my late 20s when I understood batting better to make a proper comeback. So just coming back to that series against Bangladesh, that series was followed the winter that year. We were in England. I had a very good series in England, scored 100 at Lords, scored 100 at Headingley. Then we came back to South Africa, and that Bangladesh series was a 2-test series again. The first test we won in Bloemfontein. I wasn't dismissed in that match. I was 60 not out, I think. Then the next test was at Centurion, the one you're talking about. Again, I wasn't dismissed. So coming off a good series in England, coming off another good series against Bangladesh, where I was man of the series in the one you're talking about. At that particular time, I was really probably at the peak of my game. I think we were in trouble in that game. Shakib took 5 wickets for Bangladesh in the first innings. But my best performances were always backs against the wall.
In closing, there's something that's been sitting right here, man, that I want to just pick your thoughts about quickly. What's up with these 2-match series, man? It just feels like it's just starting and then it's over. And it's like, there's no time to get back in it. And, I don't know.
Years ago, I don't know how it works, but years ago, there was talk about certain series are regarded as iconic series, and iconic series will be a minimum of 4 test matches and maximum of 5. And those are obviously series like Ashes, England versus India. They would be regarded as iconic series, 4 and 5 test matches. And I mean, for us, even then, it was like, well, why do we never get to play 4 or 5 test series? I mean, at the time, South Africa was #1 team in the world, and yet you didn't get the 4 or the 5 test match series, it's, as far as the ICC scheduling is concerned, the future tours program, etc. Most of these things are set out, in advance, maybe set out years ago, 2 years prior. And so you kind of get what you get. And, it's a little bit disappointing. We kind of know that certain boards have more muscle when it comes to, the big series. And of course, Australia, England, India, they always seem to get to play each other in 4 or 5 test match series, which is nice for them, but it's not so nice for us because, other things to consider here is that your big series are also big money spinners for your cricket board. So the iconic series, they sort of are high in terms of priority for the TV companies, and everybody wants them. So those cricket boards obviously make a lot of money when they are able to play these big series in 4 or 5 test matches against each other. And the rest, I'm sure from a South African point of view, just having had India here, you had the test matches, the ODIs, but even the T20s, they are big money spinners as well. And from a South African point of view, it's a little bit disappointing that we didn't have the T20 series. Yes, it was difficult with COVID and all that, but we played the 50 overs and we played the test matches. Surely we could have spared another 3 days for the 3 T20s. You know what I'm saying? So it's disappointing when that happens. But the 2 test matches, no, I'm not a big fan of that at all. So yeah, hopefully in future, I think the one way you can kind of improve that situation, and maybe that's a challenge for the Proteas and for South African cricket as a whole, is that you get your ranking back up there to where we should be, back up to number 1 in the world, and then everybody wants to play against us, and you become a sort of a draw card where everybody wants you. So that's the challenge, I guess. Let's get back up to where we belong.
Yeah, we've taken the steps to do exactly that, and hopefully the boys can keep improving. Yeah, Ashwell, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting cricket season. There's still plenty of cricket. Women's World Cup is just around the corner. Do you think South Africa can win that?
Absolutely. And it's a good, it's a shame we don't really have much time to talk about it, but they have a very good team. Laura Wolfhard in the batting, Lazelle Lee, the dynamic players there in the batting lineup, Brits, Chloe Treyon, whacks it at the end there, and then obviously they got a gun bowling attack. Well, Kapi, I didn't mention Kapi in the batting as well, and she's obviously a world-class all-rounder. Shibnam Ismail, they've got a great team, and I think in the last few years, they've been a shining light in South African cricket, and they've got a good chance. Obviously, they're missing the captain, Dene, which is a big blow. First of all, as a leader on the field, but also all-round ability, leg spinner, and a key batter for the team. So she's a big blow, but still they got a good outfit there, and I think they got a good chance. And I wish them, I'd like to wish them all the best.
Yeah, I think we all as South Africans wish the Proteas women's team all the best. They've, like you said, been a real shining light for our game. They keep getting better and better. Semi-finals. Well, hopefully this time they'll go one step further, get to a final, and then bring that trophy home. We're backing them. And yeah, as the FisMaz show, we wish them all the best. Ashwell Prince, thank you for your time. I'm going to let you go now. And yeah, and then I'll wrap things up from my side. But yeah, all the best. And it's a pity
Thanks, brother.
Liverpool, but I love you anyway.
Thanks a lot, brother. It's been a real pleasure to come on the show. All the best.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Yeah, that's Ashwell Prince sharing some thoughts with regards to, I guess, how things will go going forward. South African cricket, Bangladesh coming here just around the corner. Looking forward to that. And of course, the Momentum Proteas. They are going to be spectacular. I'm putting it out there into the universe because I believe that they can do the business. So yeah, it's a wrap for this episode of the FisMaz Show. We are back. It is season 3. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be spectacular. I can't wait to share all the content that we have coming up. Next episode, I can say it now. Next episode, I've got a man who shook South African football. A man who was incredible. I mean, simply incredible. Part of the 2010 World Cup squad. I don't want to give away too much. Let's just leave it there. Yeah, we're going to be changing things up nicely, but please make sure you keep subscribing to the show. You keep following the show. You can check out the show on supersport.com. Of course, we're also on Apple Podcasts. You can also subscribe on our YouTube channel, FisMaz TV. FisMaz TV. So that's where you'll get the extra content and the ready for TV content. So make sure that you are going to FisMaz TV on YouTube, hitting that subscribe button, and really getting involved. So yeah, good to be back. It's just the beginning. We're going to be looking forward to a really exciting ride in season 3. But as the great Nokolo Grootboom always says, Intanda no Gemaka.